Santa Cruz, California, 1973. A college girl is missing. Her books are still in the back seat. Her glasses too. But she's gone. No scream. No struggle. Just silence. What nobody knows is that she accepted a ride from a man who seemed kind. Calm. Gentle. A man who had already killed before. Who had murdered his own grandparents at just 15. Who now roamed free with a smile and a plan. Inside his car, the backseat door couldn't open from the inside. Her last moments? Spent locked in. And what he did next shattered the nation. This is not fiction. This is the real story of Ed Kemper, the Coed Killer. Subscribe now to Unbelievable True Story and watch to the very end. May 7, 1972. For 45 p.m. Santa Cruz, California, USA. The breeze was soft. The campus was quiet. A college girl named Aiko Ku waved goodbye to her ballet friends. She clutched her books. Walked alone. A beige Ford Galaxy pulled up beside her. A large man leaned out. Polite voice. Warm smile. Need a ride? She hesitated. Then got in. She never came home. Her mother called the police. Posters went up. But no one knew. She was in the trunk of that very car. Dead. His name was Edmund Emil Kemper III. Born December 18, 1948, in Burbank, California. He would grow to be 6 feet 9 inches tall. A giant. People called him the Gentle Ed. He spoke slowly. Softly. But inside was something broken. Something cruel. Ed Kemper had a bad start. His father left when Ed was 9. His mother, Clarnell, was harsh and cold. She called Ed ugly. Said no woman would ever love him. She locked him in the basement at night. Alone. In the dark. He played with knives. At age 10, he buried his cat alive. Then dug it up. At 13, he killed another cat with a knife. Kept the skull in his closet. He later said, "It felt good. I had power." At age 15, Ed Kemper had enough. He wanted to see what it felt like to kill a human. So he went to live with his grandparents in the countryside. On August 27, 1964, he grabbed his grandfather's rifle. His grandmother was in the kitchen. He shot her in the back of the head. Twice. Then he waited. When his grandfather came home, Ed walked outside and shot him too. He called his mother. Then called the police. I just wanted to know what it felt like. They called him insane. Diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia. Sent him to Atascadero State Hospital. Doctors said he was quiet. Polite. Smart. He memorized psychiatric textbooks. He learned what the doctors wanted to hear. He became a model patient. At age 21, Ed Kemper was released. Declared rehabilitated. He's no threat to society, they wrote. He moved in with Clarnell again, in Santa Cruz. His mother was still mean. Still cruel. Still loud. She mocked him in front of others. Called him a failure. Wouldn't let him bring dates home. Said he was too ugly. Too strange. Ed worked for the highway department. But his rage kept building. At night, he sat alone. Drank beer. Imagined killing. Ed liked to drive. Just cruise the streets. He noticed college girls. Back then, many students hitchhiked. It was normal. He began picking them up. First, he just talked. Drove them where they asked. Then he started carrying knives. And blankets. And plastic bags. He changed the locks in the back seat. So once they got in, they couldn't get out. May 7, 1972. He picked up 2 Fresno State students, Mary and Pesci and Anita Lucchesa. They were going to Stanford, but they never made it. He drove them to a remote area, tied them up, killed them. He later dismembered their bodies, kept souvenirs, took photos. He threw the remains off a cliff. A few days later, a skull was found. Police had no clue who did it. No one suspected Ed. He still lived with his mother. Ikoku was just 15. A high school student. Loved ballet. A rising star. She missed her bus after class. That's when Ed pulled up. Inside his car, he pulled a gun. Told her to lie down. She begged him to let her go. He said she was special. Then he wrapped her head in tape. He killed her. Took her body home. Later, he said, "I was sorry, but I still did it." This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. Ed looked normal. He was smart, kind to strangers. He drank coffee at the same diner every morning. The waitresses liked him. He joked with them, gave good tips. He talked to police officers often, hung out at bars where detectives met. He asked about the investigations. They called him Big Ed. He was just the funny guy who liked cop talk. No one knew he was the man they were all hunting. January 8, 1973. Ed picked up Cindy Scholl, an 18-year-old college student. She never made it to her class. He killed her, then drove to his mother's house, snuck her body inside, and hid it in the closet. That night, Ed had dinner with his mother. Laughed, talked, drank. After she went to bed, he cut Cindy's body into pieces in the bathtub. He buried her head in the backyard, facing his mother's bedroom window. She always wanted people to look up to her, he said. Ed's eyes were calm, flat, cold. When police later asked how he chose victims, he said, "I looked at their eyes. If I saw fear, I knew they were the right one." He didn't want to fight. He wanted control. Silence. Stillness. Some called him a psychopath. Others, a genius. He had a 145 IQ. He knew what he was doing. February 5, 1973. 2 students were hitchhiking. Rosalind Thorpe and Allison Liu. Ed pulled over. They got in. He showed them his university ID, stolen. They felt safe. He drove into the woods, pulled out a gun, killed them both, then drove their bodies back home. While passing police on the road, "No one stopped me," he later said. "I felt like I could do anything." Inside Ed's bedroom were strange things. Bags with clothes that weren't his. A camera with photos of the dead. A knife with dried blood. A book of Mindhunters of the FBI. He cleaned everything. Made his bed. Washed the car. No fingerprints. No blood. No trace. Just secrets behind a quiet face. April 20th, 1973. Ed had had enough. His mother mocked him again. She said, "You'll never get a woman like the real men do." That night, Ed waited until she was asleep. He walked into her room, picked up a claw hammer, and killed her. Then, he cut off her head, screamed at it, "Now you can shut up," he yelled. He put her tongue in the garbage disposal. It jammed. He laughed. Later, he said, "It felt like the only kill that mattered." After killing his mother, Ed waited. Then invited her friend, Sally Hallett, over for dinner. When she arrived, he killed her too. He left both bodies inside, wrote a note, cleaned the house. Then, he got in his car and drove. Kept driving. He drove for hours. Over 1,000 miles. To Pueblo, Colorado. He sat in a motel. Alone. Tired. Ready to end it. But something inside him wanted to talk. So he found a phone. Called the Santa Cruz police. "I'm the one you're looking for," he said. "I killed my mother. And others. Please come get me." They didn't believe him at first. Then, they did. The police were stunned. They had talked to Ed many times. He seemed helpful. Normal. But now he was telling them where the bodies were, what weapons he used, what he did to their faces, and how he spoke to the heads. Detectives cried. Some got sick. One walked out of the room. "It was the most evil thing I'd ever heard," he said. News spread fast. Coed Killer confesses. Giant murderer turns himself in. Photos of Ed hit every newspaper. He smiled in court. Joked with reporters. "I've always been polite," he said. "Even with my victims." The world was horrified. But one question echoed louder than all. How did no one see this coming? October 23, 1973. Ed Kemper stood before the judge. Calm. Still. Polite. He wore a dark suit. He didn't cry. He didn't shake. The courtroom was silent. Except for the prosecutor reading the charges. 8 counts of first-degree murder. Journalists scribbled fast. Some jurors couldn't look at him. Others whispered. "He's huge. He looks normal. He looks nice." But the file said otherwise. The photos said otherwise. The families knew better. Doctors interviewed Ed over weeks. They asked, "Why did you kill?" He answered, "Because I wanted to feel what it was like." They asked, "Why women?" He said, "I was angry. I couldn't talk to them. I thought if I couldn't have them, no one should." They asked, "Did you feel anything?" He said, "Sometimes. But I didn't stop." The doctors were torn. Was he insane? Or just evil? They decided. He knew what he was doing. The trial didn't last long. On November 8, 1973, the jury gave its decision. Guilty. On all counts. Ed didn't flinch. He didn't cry. He simply asked, "Can I get the death penalty?" But California had no death penalty at the time. So he was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. He later joked, "I got life. My victims didn't." Ed Kemper was sent to California Medical Facility in Vacaville. Even in prison, he stood out. He recorded audiobooks for the blind. Over 5,000 hours of narration. Books like Flowers in the Attic, Star Wars, and The Glass Key. He became the voice behind school textbooks and mystery novels. Some listeners said, "His voice is so calm. So kind. So smooth." They had no idea who he was. In the 1980s, the FBI came knocking. Agents like Robert Ressler and John Douglas wanted to understand killers, to stop others before they struck. So they sat down with Ed, recorded hours of conversation. And what he said shaped modern criminal profiling forever. You want to know how a killer thinks? You ask one. He told them. What signs to look for? What fantasies grow into? How killers choose victims? How they cover their tracks? His words became a guide. Even today, FBI agents still study his interviews. In one interview, Ed leaned forward. He said, "It all comes back to her. She hated me. She blamed me for everything. I begged her to love me. She never did." He paused, then said, "If she had hugged me, just once, maybe none of this would have happened." Years later, detectives who worked the case still remember. One said, "He wasn't a monster on the outside. He was funny. Smart. That's what scared me most." Another said, "I talked to him about sports. About music. I had no clue he was driving around with bodies in his car." They all agree on one thing. Evil can wear any face. Some families gave interviews. Others stayed silent. Ikoku's mother said, "I didn't want revenge. I wanted my daughter back. I wanted to hear her laugh again." Mary and Pesh's father said, "I still dream she walks through the door." Still, their pain never left. Their lives never returned to normal. Ed gave interviews, wrote letters, became famous, but they were left with graves. To this day, some of Ed Kemper's psychological records are sealed. Too disturbing, too personal, too dangerous, some say. Even seasoned doctors refuse to read them. One psychologist said, "We thought we'd seen it all, until we saw his sketches. His letters. I couldn't sleep for 3 nights." People still ask, how did he fool everyone? How did the system let him out? Could this happen again? His case is now used in police schools, mental health lectures, FBI training rooms. But even with all the study, there's still one question no one can answer. Was he born evil? Or did the world make him this way? Years passed, but the story of Ed Kemper didn't fade. True crime writers called him the killer with a brain, the giant with a dark heart, the man who killed to be heard. Books were written. TV shows dramatized him. He even appeared, briefly, in Netflix's Mindhunter. Fans sent letters. Some asked for advice. Others, for love. One woman wrote, "You understand me more than anyone I know." He wrote back. In later interviews, Ed said things that chilled even hardened investigators. "I stabbed her and said, 'Oops, sorry. Then I realized I wasn't sorry.' Or this? I didn't kill all the time. Just when I felt lonely. And this? I loved them too much to let them go. That's why I kept parts of them with me." Each sentence was soft, spoken like a bedtime story, but filled with horror. In a prison basement, there's a room. It holds over 600 hours of tapes. All from Ed. Interviews, confessions, audio books, personal thoughts, letters to no one. One tape ends with the sound of him singing, "Twinkle, twinkle little star." Then silence. Then a long breath. Then the tape clicks off. Even guards don't like to enter that room. As of now, Ed Kemper is still alive. Still serving time in California. He's over 75 years old. Uses a wheelchair. He no longer gives interviews. Doesn't write letters. Inmates say he just sits. Quiet. Watching. Listening. His prison file is thick. Labeled high profile, no media. Over the years, guards have shared strange stories. One said, He talks to himself at night. Full conversations. Laughing. Crying. Another? He asked to be executed. Said life was too boring. Another? He still smiles when someone says mother. Rumors say he once carved chess pieces out of soap, each shaped like a woman. Despite the attention on Ed, it's the victims who matter most. Their names should never be forgotten. Mary Ann Pesci, Anita Lucchesa, Aiko Koo, Cindy Scholl, Rosalind Thorpe, Alison Liu, Clarnell Kemper, Sally Hallett. Each had dreams, families, futures. Each lost everything to one man's sickness. This is not a made-up story. These crimes were real. These girls were real. The pain is real. You can read the reports, watch the interviews, visit the graves. Don't forget that behind every killer are lives stolen forever. Ed's childhood home was torn down, but the house where he lived with his mother still stands. Still on Ord Drive, in Aptos, California. Neighbors rarely speak of it. Some moved away. Others put up fences. One woman said, "I still hear her voice. That scream in the middle of the night. I'll never forget it." Some believe the house is haunted. Others say the real ghost is what happened inside. Every few years, a new case appears. Another man. Another monster. Another trail of victims. And every time, someone says, "He seemed normal." Just like Ed. We still don't know how many EDS are out there. Waiting. Watching. Pretending to smile. And we still ask, how do we stop the next one? Are we missing the signs again? The story isn't about Ed. It's about the lives he took. The laughter that was silenced. The mothers that grieved. The futures that vanished. Their names should be spoken more than his. Ed Kemper once said, "When I see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think two things. One part wants to say hi. The other wonders what her head would look like on a stick." That sentence was burned into every FBI training manual. It was used in psychology books. It shocked classrooms. It warned police across the world. Evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers with a smile. Before Ed, the FBI didn't really study serial killers. They arrested them. But they didn't understand them. Ed's interviews changed that. His details helped create criminal profiling. A way to spot killers before they strike. His words showed how. Fantasy becomes obsession. Obsession becomes ritual. Ritual becomes murder. Ed was the blueprint. The nightmare lesson. The textbook monster. After Ed came many more. Ted Bundy. John Wayne Gacy. Jeffrey Dahmer. BTK. Each one studied. Each one profiled. Each one eerily, like Ed. One FBI agent said, "It's like they all read the same book. Only Ed helped us write it." What made Ed different wasn't just the crimes. It was his honesty. His clarity. He didn't lie. He didn't run. He turned himself in. Told everything. Explained it all. Some call it guilt. Others say he just wanted fame. Or power. But one doctor said, Ed knew exactly what he was. And he wanted us to know it too. In his last public interview, Ed said, "I tried to stop. But the voices were louder. My hands moved without thinking." He admitted. He almost killed again. He almost didn't turn himself in. He almost let the killings continue forever. He paused and added, "There's still a part of me that misses it." The room went silent. Think of this. If Ed hadn't confessed, If he kept going, he might have killed dozens more. Maybe even hundreds. He had the charm, the strength, the silence, and no one suspected him. Not the cops, not his co-workers, not his own family. He was hiding in plain sight. The kind man with the soft voice, the helpful giant, the monster at the wheel. In Santa Cruz, they still remember. Locals still point at the house. Tourists whisper his name. But they don't speak loudly. They don't laugh. They remember the fear. The posters. The missing girls. One former detective said, "He made the city bleed. It hasn't healed." Let's ask something now. What if you met Ed Kemper at the store? Or at the bar? Or walking your dog? Would you have known? Would you have seen his past? Or his future? Or would you have smiled and walked away? Just like his victims? This story is more than horror. More than blood. It's a warning. That monsters don't always hide in shadows. That evil can sound polite. That the face of terror might look just like yours. And worst of all, they don't stop on their own. They stop when someone sees the truth. Today, Ed Kemper sits behind bars. Old. Quiet. A shadow of the killer he once was. But somewhere, a mother still cries for her daughter. A father still stares at a photo. A friend still remembers the last words they said. And a question still hangs in the air. What if she never got in that car? What if someone had stopped him sooner? What if this happens again? It's quiet now. In the prison halls. In the minds of those who knew him. In the graves of the girls he took. Ed Kemper doesn't speak anymore. His last interview was decades ago. His voice still echoes in recordings. But the man behind it is fading. A guard once asked him, "Do you regret it?" Ed said nothing. Just looked up and whispered, "They'll never stop asking." New killers have taken over the headlines. New names. New horrors. But those who study the darkest minds still go back to Ed. Still quote him. Still analyze his voice. Still use his words to stop others. His interviews live in FBI classrooms. In criminology books. In podcasts. In movies. His name lives on. Not as a man, but as a warning. Without Ed Kemper, we might not understand serial killers the same way. He showed us how trauma twists, how loneliness hardens, how silence turns into screams. He was both killer and teacher, a beast and a mirror. But we must never confuse understanding with forgiving. He may have helped the FBI, but he destroyed lives first. In Santa Cruz, California, the locals still whisper his name. In schools, at bus stops, on long drives past quiet roads. They say things like, "That's where Ed picked her up. That diner used to serve him. That's the highway where she disappeared." The place never forgot. Even if the world moved on. The house is empty now. The room where he waited. The hallway where she screamed. The garage where he hid the bodies. It's all quiet. No voices. No footsteps. Just wind through broken trees. And on some nights, when the moon is full, a light flickers in the window. Maybe it's nothing. Or maybe the house remembers. This story is real. Every detail, every victim, every nightmare, true. You can read the reports. You can search the interviews. You can listen to the tapes. This is not fiction. This is not made up. Every word is public. Every name is someone's child. So now we ask you, Have you heard this story before? Did you know monsters could smile like that? What would you have done in her place? Could this happen again, near you? Because sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones we almost missed. If you're drawn to real stories that haunt, that teach, that stay with you long after they end, subscribe now to Unbelievable True Story. Every week, we uncover real crimes, real mysteries, and real people who faced the unthinkable. Watch the next video on your screen, or dive into our full playlist of true crime stories, because the next tale we uncover might hit even closer to home.